Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. And it is definitely a Monday morning. Equipment malfunction right and left. So let's hope I get this video actually done. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and a very productive reading week last week. I thought I did not until I checked the calendar to see what I had read last week. And I was surprised. I thought I had gotten next to no reading done because I had gotten so much stitching done. And yeah, that wasn't the case. So unexpected benefit. I did manage to read yesterday through a allergy-induced migraine, which is luckily abated. So overall, it was a good week. So what did I read? First book I read was an audiobook from the library. That is 2-part Sugar, 1-part Murder by Valeria Burns. This is the first in the Baker Street Mystery series. And it's not my first book by her. I adore her bookshop mystery series. It's written under her other pen name, which is VM Burns. And I will tell you right up front, I much prefer the bookshop mystery series. 2-part Sugar isn't bad. However, it is incredibly problematic. This incessant need, trend, catering to a TikTok crowd, method of writing books is off-putting, and unfortunately, they're not going to withstand time. So right away, this book started off with a self-obsessed, shallow, social media, late 20-something female protagonist who is content to let everyone make decisions for her. And had I not trusted the author, that would have been enough for me. I would have tapped out within the first chapter. She's obsessed with their designer brand of clothing and posting pictures on Instagram. And the problem immediately becomes apparent in the book when it's hashtag this, hashtag that, hashtag this. And it goes on and on throughout the book with just multiple hashtags and social media, references. I get the fact that social media is a thing right now. I get the fact that hashtags are a thing right now. Unfortunately, in 10 years, that's probably not going to be true. And someone picks up the book 10 years from now who didn't live through the whole hashtag social media obsession is not going to understand. And it's just going to be annoying. I was annoyed. I was very, very annoyed. If you took the social media stuff out, it really wouldn't have impacted the book at all, except for the benefit it brings for one of the other small business owners in town. But, that could have been a one-off social media interaction, not the repeated references to, posting things on Instagram about her dog. There's a reason we still read Arthur Conan Doyle today, and Agatha Christie, and Dorothy Sayers, and Elizabeth Peters. It's because they wrote stories that were relevant for their time, but were not so niche and trendy that they couldn't be read 5-10 years later and be perfectly understood. And that's why they are continued favorites. And that's why you go back to them as comfort reads, or because you know they're reliable. And unfortunately, this first book was just, one social media episode after another. And I would have enjoyed it much more without social media. Just flat out, it would have been a much better book. She would have had to write more and flesh out the characters and make them a little less angsty and self-obsessed. The second book in the series, I will probably give a try, but if the whole social media interaction continues, I will DNF it. I don't have the patience. I really, really don't have the patience for that nonsense. And yes, I realize I'm on social media, but if you follow me on social media, I don't post there often. Okay, next book was a Kindle Unlimited read. It was Dying for Wine by Marcy Blesy. This is book 2 in the Tucson Valley Retirement Community series. I really enjoyed book 1, which was Dying to Go. Book 2 started off strong. She makes this great statement on how people in retirement communities, and I know this is true because it happens to my parents, tend to become friends with people in the state from which they came. So in the book, it's all the Illinois people become friends. I've seen it happen in my parents' community with, people from Michigan become friends and people from Iowa become friends. It's just weird, and I don't understand that. But it's an actual thing. I did almost DNF this book. The author makes a blatantly political observation that served no purpose other than to blatantly, A, try to capture that crowd of readers, or B, express her political views. It was only one in the book. It was very obvious, and I continued to read otherwise. It happens very early on in the book. This story wasn't quite as charming. It wasn't quite as tightly written. I don't know if it's suffering from sophomore syndrome, so I will probably try the third book in the series, but it wasn't as strong as the first book by any stretch of the imagination. It lacked community involvement that wasn't unrelated to the mystery, and it was far too much old people crabbiness and not enough otherwise. And this one it lacked some of the charm. Next up is Death and Brittany by Jean-Luc Bannalec. This is the first book in the... What is the name of this series? I honestly don't know the name of the series. I will put it down here. This is translated from French. It takes place in Port-Aven in France. Port-Aven. Pont-Aven. Which is a real place. Takes place in Brittany, the French province of Brittany. And our Main character is a male commissar for the police department, and a 91-year-old hotelier is murdered. And this takes a hot minute to get used to the writing style. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just much different. There is a lot of descriptors about the geographical location, the history of Brittany and Bretons. And it's got that very laid back, urgent approach to mysteries. And once you adapt, it is a very well written, tightly paced, well plotted mystery. I believe there's 7 or 8 books in the series now. I will be continuing on. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This one was a library book. I know there are many more sitting on my library shelf, so I will be picking them up. It was a great palate cleanser. I read it yesterday while my headache was trying to kill me. And I appreciated it. You learn about Breton culture, you learn a little art history, you solve a crime. It was just a good read. And I am very glad I snagged it on impulse at the library. I will be picking up more. So, and it sits somewhere between cozy and police procedural. It's not really technical enough to call it a police procedural, but it's not your typical cozy either. It kind of skims both lanes, straddles the fence. Okay, so next up would be Counterfeit Love by Crystal Caudill. This is the first book in the Hidden Hearts of the Gilded Age series. It is my first book by this author, and I need to thank Rhonda over at Writing Rhonda for this. She did a giveaway when Adrift released last July. This was one of the books. I bought it it was in my birthday haul. This is by far, one of the best Christian fiction faith books I have ever read. It is set in Cincinnati. The series follows the male members of the Secret Service. It is not following female protagonists. Obviously, there is a female protagonist in each and every one. It is a romance. However, the thread that links the books together is the Secret Service and the male agents. So, our heroine in Counterfeit Love is, her name just escaped my head, Teresa. And Teresa lives with her grandfather, and he is a Civil War veteran, and she is an orphan, and he raised her, and he is very strict, and he is very cold, and he has somehow accumulated a lot of debt, and Teresa is trying to keep the creditors off his back and, keep them in their house. And she is pawning her family's jewelry and furniture and trying to keep her grandfather out of it. So the book opens up, and she is on her way to a New Year's Eve party with her then fiance. Their carriage is accosted. She is held at gunpoint until she agrees to pay off his debt. And thus sets in motion the rest of the book. Broderick is our male protagonist. He and Teresa were once madly in love 6 years ago. And then Broderick's brother tried to kill her by drowning her. And she survives, but Broderick realizes that his family has irreparably damaged Teresa, so he disappears from her life to keep her safe. And the brother is in prison, and he's released now, and Broderick is sent to Cincinnati to uncover and arrest the leader of the counterfeiting ring that's driving the Secret Service nuts. And he quickly has suspicions that Teresa's in trouble when he stumbles across her. And it's obvious right from the beginning that the man Teresa is contemplating getting engaged to and then does become engaged to is a very bad man. He is domineering and does not listen and does not care for anybody but himself, and it is blatantly obvious. But Teresa sees him as her only choice. He's financially secure enough to protect her grandfather, which is really all she cares about. And he's making it clear to her time and time again that he is not going to do that, and she is not listening, and she thinks she can change him. And okay, now you have the story set up. So Broderick's investigation is continuing. It's becoming dangerous for Teresa. It's becoming dangerous for Broderick. He's trying to keep her out of the entire thing. And she knows she is not in love with her fiance. She knows she is still in love with Broderick. She's trying very hard to tell herself that her love will grow and this marriage is the best choice. And you can see she's falling into a marriage of convenience because it is the only path she sees forward for herself. And she is this incredibly strong woman. She is willing to sacrifice everything to protect her grandfather, who, while he loves her in her own way, is very cold and very standoffish. And she perseveres. And her faith at this point is on a precipice. And she's constantly questioning God. Why are you letting this happen to me again? Why are you letting me go through this alone again? You can see the struggle. And if you've ever been on that precipice yourself, you can understand what she's going through. And you can understand the very real struggle to hold on to your faith, however tentative and gossamer like those threads are. And that's what she's trying to do. Her best friend is telling her that God has not abandoned you and you just need to ask for his help. Broderick is telling her the same thing. And it is a beautiful faith journey that is woven throughout the book. It is never preachy. It is never it never has that overbearing tone. It is a very realistic depiction of my life has been hard for a long time, and I am struggling right now, and I can't find you. Where are you? And how do I hold on to the thread of faith when I'm struggling to have any? And it wraps up. It is a very high action mystery. Not high action. Fast paced, but tightly woven suspense mystery that brings them together. They have this very long history together. She knows she still loves him. He knows he still loves her. It's the, can we find our way back to each other? And she realizes that if she had married her fiance out of convenience, it would have been counterfeit love, because she was really in love with someone else. She had no love for this man. There wasn't even a glimmer of, you never even got the impression she liked him as a person. But it was a convenient match that would have helped her family, and she was willing to sacrifice herself for it. I need to get the next 2 books in this series. It is fabulous, and I cannot strongly recommend these books enough to anyone. They are, it was amazing. It's set in an area of the US that isn't generally a setting for a book. We don't usually see Secret Service agents, especially in the Gilded Age. We have Civil War veterans. We have, it was just a tightly woven, beautifully written story that had very strong faith, and I am very thankful I read it. I am very, very thankful I read it. So that is what I read last week. It was a very good reading week. I still can't believe it's February. It feels like it's been March for a couple weeks by now, but it is not. If you saw the video on Saturday, the book club choice has been announced. And that is Recorder, which I left downstairs. So I will link that video down below. And I hope you all join us. Yes, it's science fiction, but as I state in the announcement video, it is much more of a character-driven story than it is hard sci-fi, and there is absolutely nothing to be leery about in this book. So, what did you read last week? Please leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next week at the Protagonist Pub.